Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 2 in CE 165, Food and Beverage Cost Control. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance in our live session. Chef Gregory and I welcome you to another fine live session here at Escoffier. It is a proven fact in writing that those that attend the live session on a regular basis are generally the ones that succeed very well in this program. And if you can't attend, those that watch the live session archives are also the ones that do very well in this program. So thank you very much for those of you that attended, and for those of you that are watching on the live session archive. Your chances of success are sealed. So good job, everybody. Week 1. How'd it go for everybody? What kind of comments do we have out there? What about you, Frank? What'd you think, man? You're muted, buddy.
Oh, there we go. For me, it was easy.
It was easy. Okay, good. No stumbles.
No stumbles. I didn't even have to look at the material.
Uh-oh.
But I did anyway, though. But
Chef Gregory, that means we got to kick it up a notch. Right? What about you, Mandy? What'd you think about week 1?
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat with Frank. It was easy, and that made me nervous. So I back over everything like 3 times. So I'm like, wait a minute, that was too easy. But and I said I joined the live session Tuesday, and I was saying there, I didn't really need it this Tuesday because I felt really confident about the first week, but when it comes to math, the wheels are going to come off eventually. So I'm going to stay, focused on coming in and saying hello and making sure I'm paying attention, because it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Chef Gregory and I have a word of advice for you when it comes to this subject matter. Definitely get all the information you can out of these more simplistic things, because as this course builds, things become a little bit more difficult, and you're going to be referring back to the things that you've done in week 1 and week 2. So don't take it too lightly, because the belt tightens and things get a little bit more difficult as things go along. Samantha, how are you doing with basic conversions?
Samantha?
Yes.
Oh, good. Everything went great. Assignment and it went good.
Cool. And Mary Lou, what about you down there?
Well, this week actually was fairly easy for me, kind of just like Frank and Mandy. It was like, all right, kind of refresher. I did see this week's assignments, week's 2 assignment. I tried to kind of jump the gun, and I fell flat into my face. So I was like, okay, slow the roll, go back and remember what you did last week, and then start from there. But so far, so good. Okay,
good. That's another comment that kind of backs up the importance. This is just like, it's like building a sauce, right? You've got to cut your mirepoix, you've got to gather your mise en place. These first couple of weeks we're cutting mirepoix and gathering mise en place. So if things are going to really step up here as we progress. So really focus on understanding the materials. Great job to those of you that took the time to attend the bonus session. I know that Chef Gregory and Chef Jonathan rocked the house, and they did a fantastic job on it. But make sure you continue to attend those as they continue to host them. It's just free education is what it is. And you're only going to walk out of there a little bit more shiny than you did when you walked in. So take advantage of it. How did everybody like the discussion forum this week? Any comments about that? Anybody? Donald, how you doing, Don?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We were just talking about, you're the perfect candidate for this next one, because we were just talking about the discussion forum, and I noticed that you were Mr. Schnitzel up there. You had some great recipes.
Yeah, I actually commented on one of the other students who said he, wanting to do schnitzel and stuff like that. I put one in German, and the reason why I wanted to do that was because if you're so focused, you could be focused on what you're making versus the language. you know, it was just a psychological thing of like, okay, I'm not going to listen to this guy speaking on the air because I don't understand German. It's easier for me just to follow the steps and really fine tune it. So yeah, I was supposed to do schnitzels tonight, but class got in the way. Oh, well.
There is a German pastry chef by the name of Evelyn Wild.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever looked her up before, but I had a co-teacher at a ground school, and he kept wanting to put her pictures up and everything else. I'm like, no, I haven't heard of her. Let's talk about her first. And then
Right.
he was just madly in love with her because she's just an incredibly attractive young lady. And, you know, I don't think we ever looked at the actual product she was producing, but you know, she was just just had a nice ambiance. But the schnitzel is something in the Mexican culture that I'm fascinated by. Obviously, the Germans have had a huge influence into the country of Mexico with the beer industry, but they make what's called milanesa, which is something very similar to that and very popular. Yeah, Mandy's raising her hand. So yeah, when I saw your posting, I kind of smiled at that. So.
It was hard to find something that everyone could relate to, whether they do it or not. I mean, that's obviously on them. It's just something I'm familiar with, but every time I do it, it's a new experience. It's like taking the Harley out for a ride. Every ride I take is a brand new ride, even though I've got 40 years experience riding, doesn't make me the best rider.
Right.
You know, it's what you decide to do with it and put your own twist on it. And I think it's one of the easiest things that we can make. And it just depends on your cut of meat too, how you're doing it. You know, and I just wanted to share it, but I didn't realize that when I put the link in there, it comes up as a video already. And I'm like, no, that's not, no, I'm taking up space. I felt kind of bad, but I couldn't help it.
So great job, everyone, on the discussion forum. Once again, that's a great networking opportunity. Chef Gregory will back me up when I say this, but the relationships that you develop today are going to be there for you tomorrow. So the more you guys can communicate with one another through these discussion forums, etc., it will pay dividends to all of you in the future. So definitely take advantage of it. And also exchange information, guys. Start talking with one another down the road. And I've mentioned this in my other classes for those of you that have been previous students, but I still speak with people that I worked with 30 years ago in this industry, and they're always right around the corner. So take advantage of it. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. We have Chef Gregory, my partner in this class, who's a fantastic evaluator, and I know he rocked the house this past Tuesday with the bonus session. What's your feedback on week one, Chef Gregory?
So looking at everybody's quizzes, we saw a lot of strong grades. Another thing we saw that's just a really positive is how many times each person had tried the quizzes. That's a great thing. Even if you get 9 correct and you just really want that 100, you're still doing those 9 questions over again. So you're still learning that. You're still pumping that into your everyday. It does generate different numbers, of course, but you're still just learning and putting that in. So that way when you're out, you're an executive chef, you work in corporate, and they're asking you about food costs, menu prices, you're breaking that down and you still have all that information behind you. So taking the quiz a couple of times is a really great thing. You can take it 1,000 times if you'd like, but however, if you're taking it a couple of times, it's really positive. So it was great to see that. But there was a lot of great scores this week on the quizzes. I do want to thank you. I know Chef Warren does also. Everybody, how quickly they took them, and they're all there on times. How many people took them before Tuesday at midnight? Honestly, applaud to all of you. Just remember, you take it sooner, you can ask questions, you can helpful hint sheets. Just really thank you everybody for that. That was really great to see.
Yeah, Chef Gregory and I have stars on our jackets this week, little gold stars, because our class had the highest submission rate of all the classes here at Escoffier. So you guys rocked the house, and Chef Gregory and I are awfully proud of you guys for taking the opportunity to get the stuff done in and on time. Chef Gregory brought up a very important point. Take that test as many times as you like, and only the highest score will stick. Once you get into industry, I know this stuff is kind of like creeping along, and it's like, oh, I got to think about this. I got to figure this thing out. Chef Gregory and I were talking earlier today, and this will become second nature to you once you start working. I can have somebody come flying through the kitchen, and they say, hey, chef, how much should I charge for? And I can do a rough calculation in my head quickly, understanding the formulas and everything else. And that will happen with all of you as well. So just be patient with yourselves. You guys are rocking the house, and you guys can do it. Chef Gregory,
Sir,
what's going on in week 6?
week 6. So I want to tell everybody. So we're sending out the helpful hints. We're covering all these. We're doing the quizzes. We're taking them a couple times. So week 6 is going to be everything together. So a little bit of each question from each week, put all into one big quiz. So please do bookmark helpful hint sheets for yourself. Save them. I personally print them out so I can work off that, but I'm kind of old school like that, having everything on paper. So please do take all this information and then keep it because it is going to come back.
So this class does accumulate to week 6. So everything that happens in this week and in this previous week and the next week, etc., will all be, it's going to rear its head once again in week 6. So the class does accumulate. So make sure you are aware of that as we do move along. Before we get into week 2, which is going to be a great week, remember what the #1 responsibility is of a chef, and that is to generate profit. You know, Don may kick out the most incredible schnitzel in the world, but if he can't make money doing it, you know, what's the point? So we all really have to learn this information and focus on it. Once again, I'm going to repeat, this will become second nature to you as you progress. When you're filling out the quizzes and the test, there's no need to put in $ and cent signs. If anybody had any concerns with that on their first attempt, the system does recognize that you are working with money, so you do not need to put those signs in. Anybody have any questions so far? No? Let's go ahead and take a look at our week 2 class page to make sure that we are all on the same footstep here this week. Week 2, I hope everybody's getting the opportunity to watch these lovely videos that are produced here in Tucson, Arizona. There's not much that comes out of Tucson, so I would appreciate viewage. I could become the #1 YouTube star here in Tucson if I get at least 5 views. So those weekly videos show some good information and give you some good hints on how to progress through the week easily. So definitely take the opportunity to watch them. This information right here at the top needs to be watched and rewatched throughout the week. It contains all of the vitamins and minerals that you need to get through. We're going to take a look at these videos a little bit later on this afternoon in this. And then thank you very much for attending the live session. And then our assignment this week is portions and pricing. Down here, you'll also notice that the conversion sheet was moved from week 1 down to week 2 because we're going to continue working with that sheet. So it is there for your convenience. So any questions on that? We all good? Let's move on. There were 2 videos at the top of the page that I want to walk you through because it's something that in industry is extremely relevant. We've learned over the past couple of courses in 102 and 185 and these other classes that we will buy 50 pounds of potatoes, right? But we need to figure out how much 2 ounces of potatoes will cost so we know how much to charge our customers appropriately. So I think portion control is one of the most important things that we have to deal with in industry. And we're gonna walk through this video together before we get on to some other information. Great music, huh?
You use your portions per purchase to calculate your cost per portion. The
I'm
amount
surprised you're not singing.
spend to include an ingredient in 1 serving of a dish. You'll use this equation. Cost per portion equals purchase cost divided by portions per purchase. Let's say you paid $3 for a pound of oyster mushrooms. You've got a recipe that uses 1/6 of a pound of mushrooms. So you have 6 portions per purchase. You can divide that 6 into the purchase cost, which will give you this. $3 divided by 6 equals 50 cents per portion. Here's another example. You buy a gallon of milk for $3.52. A recipe needs 4 cups of milk for 1 portion. There are 16 cups in a gallon. So 16 cups per gallon divided by 4 cups equals 4 portions per gallon.
So this is the part, if you can all remember back to 101 or 102 when we started introducing conversion charts, we talked about Gallon Girl, talked about how many ounces are in a cup, how many tablespoons are in a cup, how many teaspoons in a tablespoon, etc. This is the part of the program where all of those things come into play. On this week's exercise, you're going to be figuring out, I think there is a question that does convert something down into tablespoons or teaspoons rather, or tablespoons. So this is where it all comes to fruition.
Since 1 gallon costs $3.52, take that and divide it by 4. You'll get 88 cents. That's your cost per portion.
So that's basically in a nutshell how you're going to figure it out. There's a couple of different methods that we'll get into a little bit later on, but that's the very rudimentary method of breaking these things down. So for example, if you buy a whole salmon and you pay $80 for that whole salmon, you break it down and you get 10 portions of salmon, or 10 portions out of that whole salmon. You'll divide 10 or 80 by 10, and that will be $8 per portion is what you are paying for the product. And that's the important thing. Did I miss anything there, Chef Gregory?
No, sir. I think that was a great video. Thank you.
We have one little quick video to get into, and then Chef Gregory is going to talk about a couple of things regarding formulas for this week's assignment. This next video is critical. It's going to talk about portions per purchase, and let's get over there so we can take a look at it.
Usually, your ingredients will be stored in a different size than what gets used in your recipes. In a restaurant, you might buy butter by the pound, but only use a few ounces of it in most of your recipes. You'll need to know how much that few ounces of butter costs, but that'll be covered in a later video. The first step is figuring out how many portions you get out of each purchase. Let's say you have a 25-ounce bottle of wine in a sirloin steak recipe that uses half an ounce of red wine. How many portions are in that bottle? Use this equation. Portions per purchase equals purchase size divided by amount used in one portion.
So basically what they're talking about there is you want to make sure that all of your units coordinate, right? So he's saying that if your recipe is in ounces and your purchase is in ounces, then you can use that equation. So for example, in this bottle of wine, there's 25 ounces and the recipe calls for 0.5 ounces. It's 25 times 0.5, and that will give you your answer.
In this case, the purchase size is 25 ounces and the amount used,
or divided, I'm sorry, not multiplied,
is 0.5 ounces. Divide them and you get 50 portions. That's how many times you can use that bottle of wine for that recipe. Sometimes things are a bit more complicated and you have to convert between different units. Let's say you get potatoes by the pound, but your standardized recipe for mashed potatoes uses 3 ounces. You'll need to convert your supply of potatoes into ounces. 1 pound is 16 ounces. If you buy 50-pound boxes of potatoes, multiply that 50 by 16. You have 800 ounces in each box. You always multiply when going from a bigger unit to a smaller one, because the multiplying will give you a higher number, like 50 pounds versus 800 ounces. Likewise, you always divide when going from a smaller unit to a bigger one. Now that we have our 800 ounces of potatoes, we can figure out our portions per purchase. Portions per purchase equals purchase size divided by amount used in one portion. The purchase size is 800 ounces, and the amount used in one portion is 3 ounces. Divide 800 by 3, and you get 266.66. Well, you probably want to round this one to 2 decimal places. So 266.67. If you're not already familiar with rounding, be sure to watch the rounding video.
So that's basically it in a nutshell. I know if I have a recipe that calls for 8 ounces of milk and I buy my milk by the gallon, I can easily convert in a couple of different ways. I know that 8 ounces is 1 cup, and I know that a gallon of milk is 16. So I can easily get my equation by figuring it out that way. Or I also know that a gallon of milk is 128 ounces, and I can divide that by 8, and that will give me 16 cups per gallon. So does anybody have any questions on that? That's going to be really relevant to this week's assignment with some of that information. We're going to turn it over now to Chef Gregory. He's going to open up some slides that he wants to share with everybody.
All right. Okay. So did everybody get the helpful hints sheet from last week that we sent out? Okay. So I'm going to send one of those out every week. I'm going to send it out tomorrow when I wake up, so you'll get a new one. So this is the week 2 helpful hint sheet. One really thing important about this when we're talking about rounding. So I'm going to go through some questions like we did last week. I do have a new setup, so please let me know, everybody, what you think. So when we're rounding, though, when we're breaking down our portions, you don't want to round any numbers until the end. That's really important. So for an example, we're going to use this bottom one for how much does it cost. So we have $3 per pound, and you need to know how much 1.9 ounces costs. So we have pounds and ounces, so we need to convert. So we're dividing our $3 per pound divided by our 16 ounces, because there's 16 ounces in a pound. That's going to give us 0.1875 per ounce. And then we're stopping. We're not going to round yet. That's really important because we're looking for the final answer. We have to convert, and then we're doing our next equation. So it says, remember not to round yet. Next, you will multiply your price per ounce, which we have, by the number of ounces that you need, which it's telling us how many ounces do we need. 1.9. So we have the number from up here, our ounces from up here. Now we're multiplying again, and this is what we get for our answer. This is now when we're going to round. So we have 0.35625, like on Chef's Warren video, we were talking about rounding up and rounding down. So the final answer for this question is going to be 36 cents.
So now I think after Chef Gregory's explanation, I think we can all understand how important it is to be able to read and understand exactly what is being asked in these questions. And I think the biggest thing here was it's asking you to go from pounds to ounces, right? So you have to make sure that you convert everything into like units in order to do your mathematical formula. It's very, very important.
So this is the sheet that you guys will receive tomorrow. Helpful hints for week 2. Again, please do keep it for the course. If you want to print it, if you want to bookmark it, however you want to save it, please do save it. So for this week, we're asking 2 questions. We're asking how many can be made, and the other questions we're going to ask is how much does it cost? Those are going to be the 2 things that we're looking for. Last week when we were talking about looking first what they're asking of us, those are the 2 that we're going to look for this week. So like last week, and this is my new setup, these are questions from your quiz. Of course, again, the numbers have changed, but I'm sure how you noticed, if you take the quiz, you take it again, the numbers change. So some of these may be an exact answer, and some of these may not be the exact numbers. However, they're the same questions. So, Parmesan cheese. You buy Parmesan cheese in 2-gallon containers. 1 batch of cheese ravioli requires 0.3 pints of Parmesan cheese. How many batches can be made with 1 container? So can somebody tell me what the storage size is? I can't see the chat, so if anybody wants to just unmute themselves and tell me, please.
2-gallon.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. Mandy, thank you. Yep. Thank you, Mandy. 2 gallons. Storage size, 2-gallon containers. We're going to multiply. Can somebody tell me how many pints are in a gallon?
8.
Should be
Perfect.
by 8.
Thank
Yes.
Yes, thank you, everybody. 8, right? Okay, this is going to be our first part. This is our storage size times our pints in a gallon. Okay. We have 2 times 8, 16. That's our first part. Now we're going to divide by our batch size. Can anybody tell me what the batch size for this question is?
0.3.
Yes, thank you. Whoever said that, I appreciate it. Yep.
It's
Point.
me, Laquana.
I do appreciate that. Laquana. Thank you. So yes, she is right. Our batch size is 0.3. Okay. So now we have our 16 divided by 0.3, our batch size. Can somebody tell me what our answer is going to be with the rounding?
53.33.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job.
Perfect.
When I look at this question, the first thing I think to myself is I have to go from gallons to pints. And yet the first step one is always making sure that your units are like, right? So if they're asking you how many pints, you have to make sure everything's in pints. You want to make sure if they're asking you if it's in ounces, everything has to be in ounces.
And this, I'm using a Microsoft computer. This is my Microsoft calculator, just the one that comes on there. My cell phone does the same thing. So if I open this, it looks like this. If I expand this, it shows me a history. And I can clear it and I can get on to the next question. However, if I think that I made a mistake, I put the decimal in the wrong spot. I did it in the live session by accident. I typed 100 instead of 110. It'll show me up here. So I can reread my history and possibly correct my own mistakes. So I do recommend that if you're using it. My cell phone does it also. You can hit history and it'll show you what the equations are. All right, so that was asking what? Was that asking how many can be made, or was that asking how much does it cost?
How many can be made?
How many can be made? Thanks, sir. Perfect. All right. Okay, we'll start with that. Are we asking how many can be made, or how much does this cost?
How many can be made?
How many can be made? Awesome. All right. So if we look at the last slide that we just worked on, how many can be made? And now we're looking at this slide. How many can be made? What do you notice down here? We're using the same exact math, the same equation.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Now we are switching gallons and pints, which we're going to go over that in a second, but we're doing the same thing. How many can be made? All right. So can somebody please tell me the storage size for this problem?
There's 8 pints in a gallon, I think.
You're going to get to that, yep. But first, we have storage size.
It's a gallon.
1 gallon.
1 gallon, yes, sir. 1 gallon. And you now tell me how many pints are in a gallon?
8.
8. Take our calculator first. 1 times 8. We got 8. All right. Now we're going to divide 8. 8 divided by our batch size. Can somebody tell me? Yeah, 0.7. Thank you for saying so. Yep. 0.7 equals, we got 8 divided by 0.7. Okay. Now, because we're at the end, this is our final, it's going to be our final answer. Like that game show, I don't remember what it was called. Now we're going to round. Can somebody tell me what I'm going to put down here and I would put in my quiz if this is what I got in my calculator?
11.43.
Yes, 11.43.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Yep. So I'm taking my quiz right now. I'm putting in 11.43.
Chef Gregory, we got all the smart ones in our class.
I love all of you. Thank you very much.
It's making
All
our
right.
lives easy, man.
All right. So, does everybody want me to do the next one? Or would we like to try to move on to another question? Or would you guys like me to keep going on how many can be made?
Another question.
for you.
Another question. Perfect. All right. We're going to do milk on this one. Okay. So first thing we look, it's asking us how many can be made. All right. Can somebody please tell me the number of gallons?
1.
1. Thank you, everybody. All right. We are multiplying. Can somebody tell me how many pints are in a gallon?
8.
8.
That's 8, Chef.
Yes, it is. You'd be surprised how much math I can do in my head. Beyond 1 times 8, ironically enough. All right. So we have 8. We're dividing that. Now we're looking at this. Pints. We had gallons. We had pints. We converted first. How many pints per serving? What are we looking for? What number?
Divided by 0.3.
Yes, we are dividing. Yep. 0.3 equals 8 divided by 0.3.
Now we need the calculator. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can somebody please tell me what I'm going to type into my quiz when I get this in my calculator?
26.7.
67.
Yeah, 67.
26.67. Yep. Because we're looking at the third number. It's above 5. We're changing this one to a 7. 26. Is everybody all right on that one?
Yes, Chef.
All right, cool. All right. You're also going to see this on your quiz. Okay? However, it's still asking the same question. How many can be made? But we look at this. We have 15 pounds, 0.6 pounds. Do we need to convert anything on this one?
No, Chef.
I see Mary Lou. Yep, thank you. I see Mary Lou shaking her head no. All right. So we have pounds in a shipment. How many pounds do we get in a shipment of tomatoes?
15.
15. Okay, we're going to divide. How many pounds of tomatoes do we use per serving for 1 Cobb salad?
0.6.
0.6. 15. We're going to divide 0.6. What am I going to enter in my calculator?
25.
Yep, exactly. So that 25, though, if we're looking at it, okay, how many portions can be made with 1 shipment? I can make 25 Cobb salads, tomatoes worth, out of my shipment. That's how many I can make. Everybody cool with that one? Now, I believe I'll try to give you an exact hint. If your quiz populates, I'm going to switch the numbers. We're going to do it again. How many pounds of tomatoes is in my shipment? 25.
25.
Exactly. Because I did change the numbers. Yep. How many pounds in a serving for one Cobb salad. I don't know how that just happened.
0.7.
No, to be dead honest, I don't know. Okay. We're going to keep moving on, though. We're going to have a red streak in ours. That's all right. Okay. So we have 25 now, and we're dividing it by 0.7.
5.71.
35.71. Thank you for whoever said that. 35.71. Don, you have your hand up, sir?
I do. My question is, are you always going to round to the thousandths THS at the end of that? Because to the right's THS, to left is EDS of the decimal point. So you're always going to round to that 10,000ths place?
You're going to round two. You're going to round two places. Yes.
Which is the thousandths THS at the end of thousandths place to the right. So is that constant?
It's fairly common in industry to extend it out 2 digits.
Okay.
Rarely, I mean, during our formulas, like Chef Gregory was talking about earlier, it will extend it out depending on the settings on your calculator. But for most general purposes, it's always 2 digits.
Okay.
What we get concerned about in this situation, and I'll talk about this here in a few moments, is about volume. It seems like it's a pretty minute detail that it really doesn't matter. However, when you're selling a couple thousand units a month, and if you're off a 10th, it's going to accumulate, become extremely expensive for you. A lot of chefs don't think in that perspective, but you have to begin thinking in a 30-day perspective or a 60-day perspective to get a true grip on the amount of money that you're either making or losing because of these numbers.
Right. So you'll never actually go to the 10,000ths place, really. So it's just the rule of thumb is just that they're okay. It's a good practice.
Except when you are doing your formulas, like Chef Gregory was saying.
Right.
You know, so he did the 15 times or divided by the 0.6. So yeah, it's going to come out. You're going to keep that as is until you get to your final formula.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. I don't know how we got 2 red lines now, unless somebody's in the same thing as I am.
The ghost from the chef of culinary class.
There are a couple of the same classes like going on at the same time. I'm in 2 of them. We just got another red line, so I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, there's another.
I think so.
So I do apologize for that. I literally do not know. All right. It appears it's on every slide then.
Did you make a copy of the sheet by any odd chance?
I did, but I copied all of our slides into like my own.
You did. You did. It's Chef Greg. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry about that, everybody. I don't know exactly what is going on.
Let's call it garnish.
That's a good word for it. I literally do not know on that one. I will ask Jonathan immediately though. Okay. So let's see. So does everybody want to cover a cost one?
Yes.
Is that a separate question? Yeah. Let's find one out. All right. Chef did say there was a tablespoon question. So let's do that with our red lines. All right. So this one's asking, how much does the salt for 1 portion cost?
$5.15 per quart.
Yes, thank you. So first thing, we have 5.15, price per quart. We are dividing tablespoons in a quart. Does anybody know how many tablespoons are in a quart? Or can they tell me how they would find it?
2 ounces, 4 cups, 2 pints, 95.95 liters.
64.
So through the conversion chart, we would learn that there's 16 in a cup.
There's 64 tablespoons.
Which would also tell us that there's 8 ounces in a cup. So that would tell us each tablespoon is
8.
half an ounce, right?
I use the calculator conversion.
I use Google, so.
There's 64.
Yes, thank you.
Memory.
64. Okay, it's going to be our first part. It's like on my screen.
You need an exorcism, I think.
I don't have a touchscreen computer. I don't have a touchscreen laptop.
It's possessed.
Something. 5.15 per quart. Now we're dividing by our 64 tablespoons in a quart. Divide 64. Okay. Now remember here, we're not going to round until the end. Okay, so we're going to multiply now the quantity, which may be spelled wrong, per portion. So what is our quantity per portion?
2 tablespoons.
2. Okay, what am I going to type in for my answer on my quiz?
16 cents.
16 cents. We've multiplied that by 2, and we are going to enter 16 cents into our quiz, if this is what we got. Is everybody all right with that? I can't see the chat, so if anybody has any questions, please absolutely unmute yourself and ask. Everybody good? Okay, see some thumbs up. So let's do another one. Let's do tomato sauce. It's asking us how much does it cost? What is the first number I need? The price per quart.
$0.76.
Yes. Divided by how many pints in a quart?
2.
2. Let's do the math. Okay. It's the first part. Now we're going to multiply the pints per portion. How many pints are in this portion?
3.
3.
There are
3.
3. What am I going to enter in for my quiz? How much does one portion? How much does the sauce for one portion cost?
$1.
Yeah. Is there anybody that has a question on anything so far we've covered?
Those are really good.
Okay. Chef, is there anything you'd like to cover more deeply that we've showed so far?
I think I think it's been fantastic so far. I think the most critical things, going back to step 1 once again, is understanding exactly what the question is asking. You can kind of get confused when you're reading this information. Always keep a pen and a piece of paper to write down the formulas, just like Chef Gregory is doing throughout this thing. He's writing down as he extracts the actual question. Once you've extracted the actual question from the question, then it becomes much more simple to work with. Does that make sense to everybody? Gabriel, you got a question up there, buddy? Gabriel, what's going on, man?
So, back when we were talking about the problems, with the tomatoes, you would buy 15 pounds of tomatoes for a Cobb salad.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about it with another chef last night and I couldn't remember what the term is when you would buy one product and use it in multiple dishes.
Dovetailing?
Yes, that's it. Dovetailing. That's it.
Right.
It was the first time I had heard that called that, dovetailing. But yeah, so how do you go about, in real life situation, a lot of us deal with this every day. I got a case of tomatoes, but I use it for the salad bar. I use it for, tacos, salads, sandwiches. So how do you go about is that when you actually break down the individual item on the menu to figure, you know what I mean? How exactly, because we're just talking about, like, for this example on Hummer, about what's going into the Cobb salads, but tomatoes generally use them for multiple things.
You're right. Chef, do you want to go ahead first?
Yeah, I'll go, and then you can go.
Yes, sir.
The bottom line to your answer, the price of the tomato is going to remain the same, whether it's on the salad bar, whether it's in the taco or on the sandwich. The way we do it in industry is we'll have recipes that will call for 0.25 ounces of tomatoes, blue cheese dressing, chopped bacon, whatever. But then we'll also have another sheet with all those basic ingredients costed out. So we'll take the cost of the ounces of tomatoes, and then we put that into the recipe for the Cobb salad. Then we'll have the cost of the bacon already accumulated once it's cooked off and it's adjusted cost per pound. Then we'll move that into the Cobb salad.
Okay.
Yeah, Chef Gregory, did you have a different twist on that?
Nope. I was just going to talk a little bit like when you're ordering. So if you were going to order tomatoes for the next day.
Right.
And so that was how many Cobb salads we can get. So if you average 25 Cobb salads, you know that those tomatoes are just set aside just for those Cobb salads.
Sure.
So then how many chicken sandwiches do you sell a day? 10?
Right.
Those are, of course, in slices, but it's still going to be by weight. So now I have my Cobb salads covered. I have my chicken sandwiches covered. Now I have tacos. However, they're diced up. I don't really need a nice big beefsteak center cut of tomato. So what I do is when I cut the tops off and the end off, I dice those up and I use those for my tacos.
Right.
So you can allocate, of course, if you're selling more tacos and chicken sandwiches that day, you need to tap in a little bit. But when you cross-utilize something like that, you can cover that. So as far as a salad bar goes, one's a little bit different. If it was on a like a banquet, you can pretty much do it almost like exact. So if it's on a salad bar, though, let's just say you get 100 people a day.
Okay.
100 people a day come through my salad bar. Tomatoes, of course, is a very, very popular salad bar item to put on.
Right.
So you can take your first pan. It weighs 10 pounds, and you bring it out. And every single day, you change it out one time, and you're left with half. So you're using 15 pounds to the salad bar per day.
Right.
You know that on an average, I'm going to use 15 pounds in the salad bar every single day. You add that onto your order. So now I have my Cobb salad covered, my chicken sandwich covered, my taco covered, right?
Right.
And now I have my salad bar covered. And then you just keep going through the menu and adding on what you would have for a tomato.
Sure.
That's how you would order.
Okay.
So
Thank you for the breakdown. Thank you.
Yeah, that's another fantastic method, because when it comes to working with salad bars, buffets, and other things where there's not an exact portion per customer, we do work on averages quite a bit. And what Chef Gregory's talking about, we will take the total amount used divided by the amount of customers that have gone through, and that'll give us an approximate cost. And it is an average that you do end up working with. However, when you are working with a specific dish, then you have a certain quantity that you use. And I want to make it very clear to everybody that out here that once you get into industry, this class is going to give you solid basic knowledge on how to handle these situations. But there's a lot of different ways that we look at it. It's not always as black and white as you see. I know Chef Gregory comes from, his last position was at a B&I, and I came from a hotel where we had kind of a different type of pricing structure versus the pricing structure that he came from. So different industry styles have different methods, but the formulas and everything else still remain the same. Does that make sense?
I think one thing too, depending on what side of the industry you're on too, is knowing what's going on in your community. If there's a championship football game and there's going to be 700 other people in your area, you might want to prep for that.
Right. You're right. You're right. And that's something about forecasting, keeping notes is so important. On Soup, I personally, I had a log every single day. I filled it out. How much money I made, if anybody called out, what was going on, all of that stuff. I kept a log every single day so I could look back and be like, all right, it was Super Bowl weekend last year. How many did I do? I ran out of wings 2 times. I had to run to the grocery store. It was a disaster. I know I'm not going to run out of wings this time.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I worked for a family, and they documented every day for the first 3 years of their business, and it really came in handy. Like days like after Easter or following days. Hey, we only had 7 customers that day, so we're going to close this. And they averaged it out, and it really came in handy for being able to track back on events like Super Bowl and just whatever holidays. So
yeah, it's forecasting and budgeting. Of course, if you open a restaurant right now, you can't necessarily base a forecast because you don't have history. However, if I did 2 of my opening weekends, I can gauge the third a little bit, right?
Sure.
By the time out of 52, can I gauge the 53rd weekend pretty accurately?
You should be able to.
Yes, sir. You should be able to. Yes, sir. So that is really important.
We track our numbers very, very closely in the industry. If you go back, like Chef Gregory was talking about, a lot of us will keep an almanac, or the certain departments will keep very close financial records. You'll know exactly where your revenues were at for the previous January. And this is how we set budgets and goals for ourselves. But you can't know where you're going until you know where you've been.
I know this is way off of what we were doing, but when you're doing something like, how do you figure those kind of numbers when you're writing a business plan? I know this is way off, but when you're trying to, get your, all your mise en place to get a business going, and they want numbers, how do you kind of,
Traditionally, your business plan is going to be, you're going to do a lot of research so you can kind of get a ballpark of what you're thinking. But a traditional business plan will have 3 sets of numbers within the business plan. One will be a worst case scenario, one will be an expected case scenario, and one will be a best case scenario. And it's very important when creating a business plan that you include all 3 of those numbers. So if you do hit the worst case scenario, you're going to know how to quickly react, and you're going to know how to adjust. If you hit that best case scenario, God bless you, you won the lottery. And if you're expected case, then you've done really good research.
And so you have to look at where you are in your area, right? So when I worked and lived in Boston, I worked for Lowe's Hotels. I was the corporate chef de cuisine. So I worked there. I helped renovate the restaurant. So literally, if we walked out the front door and went 2 lanes of road over, it was the Liberty Mutual building. If I walked 1 to the sidewalk and 1 back, it was the John Hancock building. Now, Monday through Friday at lunchtime, 12 to 1, what do you think happened every day?
Pounded.
Exactly. Every single day, Monday through Friday, what do you think happened at 5:15 to 7:15?
Cocktails.
Dry, nothing.
Exactly. It's just it was very smart where they built the hotel, but just think about where the building was. We had Liberty Mutual across the street. We had John Hancock. Were the rooms filled every single night? Yes. Why? Liberty Mutual and John Hancock. So, but at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, what do you think that we did?
Prep.
Exactly. So you'll know if your business, your food truck, whatever you'd like to do, your conference center is right next to office buildings, you'll know my peak times are, of course, lunch breaks, breakfast breaks, after work cocktails, happy hour, stuff like that. If you are next to a sports stadium and they do a Sunday baseball game and the baseball game's done at 4:15, at 4:45 you were going to have a 2-hour wait.
Right.
You really you have to kind of play to what you have. I do want to thank everybody. I'm going to leave you all. Don does have a question. Chef's going to answer it. I have to get to my next math class, and I appreciate everybody. And please, again, thank you, everybody. Please do as many quizzes as you can and turn them in as quickly as you can. That way you have the chance to keep going. And I will send out the helpful hints tomorrow.
You rock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chef.
everybody.
Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. All right, Don, what's your question, buddy?
Yes, sir. So for Gabriel, just to carry out what you were saying, Chef Warren, in reference to doing the course of action that you're taking, you have to look at your avenue of approach. How are you going to approach those? You know, when you're doing your mission analysis, in this case, it's your kitchen analysis, but you also have to do a TOES or SWOT analysis, which is your strength, weakness, threats, operations, and so forth. So you have to consider those things of how am I going to get there? These are my 3 courses of action, likely, least likely, most likely, and how am I going to get there? And what's my back planning? Because you're going to have that scenario. So you have to lay out your SWOT analysis, look at the other businesses around and do waypoints and weigh those in. And it's what Chef Warren was saying, just in a different way. It's just how I relate it to what we've done before. So, so you have to lay your course of action, avenues of approach, and then what are your TOES analysis or SWOT, depending on business terminology. And then that's what you apply to all of that. And I was just trying to caveat what you're saying. That's all.
Yeah.
All businesses should have some form of SWOT. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Right.
And it's basically a group or an advisory board within that business that can help address all of those issues so they don't become issues. Right?
Right. There is a website for that too that allows you to use different companies and put in the waypoints. I can't remember the sheet that it's called, but it is there. So
I wanted to kind of wrap this session up by taking a look real quick at the calculator, just to kind of drive home a point real quick. And this is my calculator. Can everybody see that up on the screen? So what we deal with in the restaurant industry is volume. And you might be looking at this thinking, oh my gosh, they're only going out to a tenth. And you know, if I'm off by a tenth, what's the big deal? Well, when you sell 1,000 units of something, right, on a monthly basis, and let's say that you're off by, I don't know, a quarter pint, right, on this unit. A unit can be a dish, a unit can be a dressing, a unit can be anything that you can imagine, but 1,000 units is not much. That's only 250 per week. Divide that by 7, you know, you're 35, 40 per day, so it's not a lot. So if you were to do 35 of those units and you were off by, let's say, a quarter pint, right, that's going to be 250 quarter pints that you're off per month, which is pretty significant. But then if you figure that out, how many pints that is, you know, divide by 4, right? So that's 62 pints. And if we know that there's 8 pints in a gallon, right, we'll divide 62 by 8. And that'll tell us that 7.81 gallons of product that you're losing on a monthly basis. Let's say that's veal stock, right? Or a demi-glace, which is around 20, 25 bucks a gallon. We'll multiply that times 25, right? So that comes out to about $195 a month that you're losing, which is a lot of money, man. And, you know, that's one item that you're off just a little bit. So that really drives home the validity of what we're talking about. And if you're off by 15 or 20 different items of that magnitude, 0.25 is a pretty small number, right? That 0.25 grew to almost $200 at the end of the month. So these things accumulate in the restaurant industry greatly. I've had profit loss statements where we've lost $15,000 to $20,000 in a month period. And you really have to take it very, very seriously. And, you know, that Gabriel was talking about, you know, these situations that occur and, you know, numbers and everything else, you have to have a backup plan and you have to understand these numbers and how to correct them.
I know a great correction for one tool that will save a restaurant owner probably millions of dollars after a 20-year career would be a spatula.
Yeah.
Because when you work with like ketchup or something like that, where you're opening a 10 can, and if you don't, that's about how much you'll be missing out. You know, if you just pour it and then disregard it without using a spatula to get everything out of it, you know, when it's all said and done, you're missing out thousands of dollars.
That's exactly the point, Gabriel. And, you know, you have somebody that empties out a number 10 can of ketchup, And they just discard that number 10 can of ketchup, even though it's only probably 2 or 3 ounces left in that can. On an annual basis, that's gonna grow to a significant number. That's what we're dealing with. We talked about ketchup packets the other night in class. Now, how many ketchup packets do you hand out now? If you're handing out too many at 0.02 cents each, you know, by the end of the year, you're talking $500-600 that you could have in your bank account that has gone out somewhere else. So, you know, big issue that we're talking about. Does anybody have any more questions? No? Don, you had another question?
I did, but it was just in reference to what we had discussed through email in reference to these other classes that keep popping up. I don't know if anyone else is having those same issues. It happened again.
It has to do with orientation.
Yeah, I did it again last night, so I missed my whole class last night. So I was like, no, logged in wrong time, wrong class. It was just hectic.
What is the email coming from Chef Janet?
No, it's just probably just from the generic website. It pops up on my phone, and the phone used to say CST time.
Oh, okay.
And now it's changed to, my phone actually converted it to regular time for me. And I look at that and I'm on logging in and I'm like, wait a minute. No, I got to now subtract it instead of add it. It's
okay,
just.
so this is popping up on the mobile?
It is.
But not on your desktop?
No, mobile and email.
Okay. So now that helps us out a little bit more.
Okay. No worries.
I talked to my boss about it, and she was under the assumption that you were still enrolled in orientation, and so you were getting her messages. But we'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
And I apologize for the challenge.
Oh, no. I'll take 4 classes at one time, no problem. I won't do well, but we'll do it.
Big load. Hey, I want to reiterate one thing. You guys rocked the house on your submissions this week. Let's keep that up. Let's stay number 1. And if anybody has any questions, pick up that phone and call. Focus on the research material and the videos this week, and you'll be fine. I hope you guys have a great week. Take care, everybody.